Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Well, normally Craig says that, but unfortunately, Craig has had a bereavement in his family today, so he can't be here. And so, all the best wishes to Craig and his family. And we're also one other light today. Our latest signing, Dan. Unfortunately, Dan was involved in a car accident today and is currently in hospital. So we wish him a speedy recovery. As far as I know, everything is okay. He's okay, but he obviously can't be here today. So one way of getting out of the podcast, boys, isn't it? Like
That's it.
So I think from everybody on the same old Arsenal, and I speak for us all on here, Dan, we wish you a speedy recovery, and hopefully at some point you're listening to this, so we know you're okay.
Yeah, all the best, mate. All the best.
Okay. Right. So I'm not the expert hosting, but I'm going to give it my best bet. Don't forget, as I say, best bet. My best bet, of course, we can go to FansBet, and of course they are our sponsors. So see the links below if you want to have a bet. Go to our FansBet because they are our friends and they help us out very, very much. And but also, if you are betting, bet sensibly. That's what I'll say, So, and hopefully you didn't bet on Arsenal winning 3 or 4-1 yesterday in the North London derby. So, getting on to the North London derby, I'm going to go first, and then let these guys come in. I'm still not happy, boys. If I'll be honest, I'm still a little bit down about it. I felt that opportunity wasted. Spurs for me were there for the taking. Somebody told me today. Now I'm gonna believe him in saying this. Harry and Graham. They know their stats, and they might back me up on this. 16 points from their last 16 games. That is what Spurs have got, and that tells you the story that they were vulnerable. And for me, Emery was very, very negative, and with his team selection, and he gave the initiative to Tottenham, which they took in the first 20, 25 minutes. I have to say I thought they were the better team in the first 20 minutes, and I thought that we was getting run all over in midfield at some stages of that game. 2-0 down. I'll be honest. If someone would have come up to me or phoned me at that moment and said, you know what, you're going to win this, going to get back into this and draw this 2-2, I would have took that there and then. I thought the Lacazette goal was a key moment for us. It got us back in the game, and I honestly felt that we was never going to lose the game from that point. And we was playing really, really well in the second half. It was a great second half performance. Got it back to 2-2. I thought we were going to win it when Socrates put the ball in the back of net, but it was offside. But for me, the game changed when a certain Ceballos come on. I thought from that moment on, that was the best I've seen Arsenal play for a long, long while. And I thought that we was all over Spurs from that moment on. But at the end of the day, could have lost it, could have won it. But in the end, we drew it. And one thing that I always say when we're playing against Spurs is if we can't win it, let's damn make sure we don't lose it. And that's what we've done. So I've got to take the positives from it, 2-0 down to get to 2-2. We have to take the positives from it, boys. Harry, thoughts on the North London derby?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think that we have to take the positives from it, considering the position we found ourselves in before, obviously, Lacazette pulled that goal back. I think, I don't know about you guys, but I was starting to feel like if we didn't score before half-time, then, maybe the confidence would have taken a real bashing and we would have found ourselves in a really, really difficult position. In terms of Emery's approach, I think you're right when you say it was a little bit negative on the one hand, but I think on the other hand, he would argue that he did play Pepe, Aubameyang and Lacazette all in the same side. And I think what was missing was the link between that midfield trio and the front three. There was no link there. There was just, it's like he went with a midfield with the, like he looked for hard work. He looked for destroyers, if you like. I think Torreira, we know that he's good at pressing, hassling people. We know that Guendouzi is going to give work rate, if nothing else. Heart is there. Granit Xhaka for me is in that three because Emery feels that he can pick out a pass, and none of the other two are particularly good in that. I know Guendouzi showed that later on in the game, but Granit Xhaka just makes too many mistakes. And I know we're going to come on and talk about him in a bit more detail, so I'm going to park that for a minute. But I just felt like we gave up the flanks again, in the sense that Aubameyang and Pepe are not going to come back and protect the fullbacks because they're forwards, and we gave up those areas again. And if you look at Spurs' second goal, so where the penalty came from, it was that Ainsley Maitland-Niles area where they targeted him just like we target Davinson Sanchez. And you saw Eriksen pulling out there. You saw Son pulling out there. Kane pulling out there. When the penalty eventually came, even Harry Winks had pulled out there, because Spurs identified that as a weakness in Arsenal's team. And when you've got a midfield three that are so narrow, it's almost impossible for them to cover that width of the pitch. When they do spread out to cover, they leave gaping holes in the middle. And you saw that at times as well, where Spurs were running like straight through the middle of us. So I think the approach... I think in Emery's mind, it probably wasn't that negative, because he would argue that he played Lacazette, Aubameyang, Pepe. But it's all good playing them, but you have to have that link. And I think that's what was missing. And I think it was missing all game. It's just that we went a little bit more gung-ho in the second half, obviously trying to get ourselves back in the game. But overall, you got to take the positives. And like Lee said, you got to make sure you damn well don't lose those games. Unfortunately for us, we didn't.
Graham, thoughts on the game first. Don't go into the tactics. Just go into the thoughts of what you thought it was like, and then we're going to dissect that in a moment.
Well, I think there's nothing quite like a North London derby, is there? There's something different about it in the build-up. You wake up on edge. I had that sort of like feeling in my stomach, because I just don't want to lose to Tottenham. And I was fortunate, really. Lee, I'm even older than you, I think. I was born in '61, just after they last won the league.
You think?
So they haven't won the league in my lifetime, and that's 21,339 days. So, so that's one thing. They haven't won a trophy for 4,210 days. They haven't won an FA Cup for over 10,000 days. So, and to be honest with you, we have at the Emirates had the edge on them in North London derbies. They haven't won. They've only won one of the last 20 odd, I think. The only time they've beaten us at the Emirates was 2010, I think, when they won 3-2 when they come back from 2 down. The last year we beat them 4-2 at home. We drew with them away, and generally we've had a couple of 5-2s in there. So the feeling going to the game was I was positive. I honestly look forward to it. You've got that sort of like nervous excitement, because you just don't want to lose a North London derby at home particularly. But, it's a great day. And I have to say the game was absolutely fantastic. It was a great game of football.
To be honest, I'll come back on that. I don't enjoy them. I really don't, you know what I mean? I think there's just so much, if you lose one of those games, the stick you're going to get and everything like that, And at 2-0 down, honestly, at 2-0 down, I'm thinking, oh no, I've got to go work, and they're all going to be there tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? And it's just a horrible, horrible day. And but as you say, like you're going to work today. I'm certainly relieved that we didn't lose the game. I thought the atmosphere in the ground again yesterday was absolutely fantastic. When we got that second goal.
The roof come off.
I thought it did. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. A couple of my Spurs mates that went yesterday, well, associates, I don't call them mates. They was saying that it was really like the place was rocking yesterday. They felt that there's a little bit of a change, and there is a little bit of a positive change at the Emirates. But I have to say, after the game, a lot of people were criticising in the pubs and all that. There's still like a lot of people defending Emery. But I thought his tactics yesterday were far too negative for a home game. Yes, he went with a 3 up front, and I thought that was great. But he then played 7 defensive players behind that, or defensive sort of minded players and approach. And we're at home, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Against a vulnerable side, I get his tactics. At Anfield, a lot of people have criticised them, but I'm not one of them. I felt that was the right thing to do. But when we're at home to a team that let's face it, we're in a little bit of disarray. I felt that it was a very, very good time to really go at him. And whether you dislike Spurs or not, you have to give Pochettino credit, because I felt that he went for it. He realised that Arsenal were weak defensively, and he felt, do you know what? I'm not going to sit back and defend here. I'm gonna hit him and hit him hard, and that's what he done. And I think that from his point of view, as Harry said, they they attacked the right back area, and I also think that they went aerial against Socrates, knowing that
Lee,
Arsenal pushing up.
Lee, I disagree with you there. I think they did come to defend. Like what if you look at their setup? They set up in a 4-2-3-1. Kane obviously up top with Eriksen in the middle with Lamela and Song as the wide forwards. But that was a 4-4-2 out of possession. That was it was a medium deep block, and their fullbacks did not go forward at all. Their fullbacks were very wary of Pepe and Aubameyang's pace, Harry, before you come in, and they just sat deep virtually the whole game. And I think all they were trying to do, Tottenham, was hit us in transitions through the lines. That was their tactic.
Well, I thought their tactic was to hit the ball up long to Kane. This is what I see of it. For him to flick on, and then the runners of Song, Eriksen, and Lamela got through the line.
They sat deep, Lee. Sat deep.
But they would, because they took the lead, though, so they were going to do that once they took the lead. Like
how long was it into the game before they scored? 17 minutes or something.
17 minutes, yeah. 17 minutes.
So
it was their first. So I mean, we started with the right intensity. So for 10 minutes, we were good, and we had that early chance. But then their first attack they scored with was their first meaningful attack, wasn't it? And that was a real comedy error of defenders with 3 errors in that. First of all, let me just highlight it for you. A long punt downfield. Now, Kane's going to head the ball, and you've got Xhaka jumping with Kane. Now, Socrates comes a long way to win that header. He's the centre half. That is a long way out for him to come and win that header. If he wants to go and win that, if he wants to go and challenge for it, he's got to win that header. He's got to win it, but he doesn't have to, because Xhaka's jumping with Kane. Now, if Kane beats Xhaka and gets the flick on, if he drops deep, he can then sort of like pick it up. But I've got problems with these Arsenal defenders, because I think they don't like to be stressed, and they have to go and win the ball. They don't trust themselves on one-on-one defending. And there's a lack of pace at times in that back line, and they have to go and win it because they don't want to be put in stressful situations, and that's bad defending. You don't see defenders like Virgil van Dijk sort of like making those sort of errors, because they're confident that if when the ball drops, they can defend. We got defenders. You said it yourself, Lee. We got defenders who can't defend. So he goes for it. Socrates doesn't get it. The next thing is he flicks it on Kane, and it goes to Song. Now, David Luiz once again sort of like is overcommitting there, sort of like gets done really by Song's clever movement. He didn't have to sort of like engage. He could have stood off, but he goes to engage, and Song gets the other side. Then Lamela and Eriksen join the attack. And then the final part of the list of mistakes, Lamela's shot. I know a lot of people, I know Craig's a member of the goalkeeping union. He defends goalkeepers, but I can't see how he can defend Leno on that one. Leno, I have to say, was excellent in that game. He made at least one outstanding save and 3 good saves that kept us in the game. But the way he dealt with that was almost like nervousness, because it was if you watch the way, and I didn't see it in the stadium, I had to watch it back last night, but when Lamela, he just sort of like passes that towards the goal. He didn't even put any conviction in the shot. And for a goalkeeper then to sort of, he either has to catch it or he's got to push it wide. And he pushes it straight to Eriksen. So that goal was a calamity of errors, starting with Socrates, then Luiz, ending with Leno. Harry.
I think it was a calamity of errors, and it was a load of errors. But also, you've got to think that in terms of the way Arsenal were defending, we've been caught out. But ultimately, Eric Lamela is in a position to shoot, and there's not a player with a worse, weaker foot in the league than Eric Lamela. His weaker foot is awful. You see him, and a Spurs friend of mine pointed it out last night on the Chronicles that Lamela often would rather try a Rabona than use his weaker foot. That's how bad his weaker foot is. So from a defensive point of view, I agree, it could have been handled a little bit better, but Lamela from the angle, a shot on his weaker foot, that should still be dealt with. So for me, the majority of the blame here falls with Bernd Leno. And Bernd Leno's made some fantastic saves. He's been brilliant for the most part of his Arsenal career. There's no question about that. But for me, he's got to do better there. It's almost as if he dives and he's in 2 minds whether he's going to try and gather it in or parry it. And in the end, he ends up doing neither. And it ends up falling to Eriksen. But then, the only other part of the question, I think Leno's the main culprit there. But the other part of the question is why Socrates hasn't followed Christian Eriksen's run, because he's miles behind him, and Eriksen's just got an easy tap in. But Spurs, for me, Graham, you made the point earlier about their fullbacks not really getting forward. I think you didn't see that that as much because Davinson Sanchez was just not comfortable in that position. He was barely able to play at right back, sort of in a defensive sense. So to expect him to go forward as well, I don't think you were going to see that. So I think Spurs, because they took the lead so early, they were going to drop off naturally. And I think that they would have stayed off us even more. They were in two minds when Lacazette scored that goal, because then it was, right, it's a 1-goal lead. Do we attack or do we sit on what we got? And in the end, they done neither, and they ended up throwing the 2-goal lead away. But I just think, I don't know, this.
Well, I thought they became very passive second half, and they stood up us second half even more. I thought the first half, you might be right, Harry. I think I do think they were weary of Aubameyang and Pepe's pace, and I think they were definitely weary of that. And I definitely thought they sat in a medium block, a low block, right? And they definitely tried to play in transition through the lines and expose Arsenal's weakness in the way we set up in midfield. We talked about it earlier. I know Lee's got great views on it, but not to play Ceballos at 10 was a mistake. He went with 3 defensive midfielders, but I think we need to look at the structure and whether he asked them to play like that, or whether they just played like that because it was the passion of a North London derby and they forgot what they're meant to be doing. But let's just look at that setup. It was a 3, right? Xhaka was the one who basically was sitting. He was more the defensive minded. I use that term loosely in the way he defended, but he was the one who was asked to defend deep. Guendouzi was on the left. Now, I watched Guendouzi. What his role was when Kolasinac, we tried to expose, as Harry said, their right side, because obviously they had Trippier's gone, Foyth's injured, Walker-Peters is not available, so they had Davinson Sanchez at right back. We tried to expose them down that flank with Kolasinac. So I thought that he would play the high virtually the whole game. I looked at his heat map this morning, and virtually the whole game was in their half. But what Guendouzi's role was, he was the left-sided of the 3 in a line to start with. Guendouzi's job was to move out to the left to cover when Kolasinac went forward. And then also when we were attacking, he was trying to get forward on that left-hand side. When Aubameyang came inside to try and drag Sanchez inside, he was the one outside on the left working with Aubameyang or Kolasinac to get an overload, to get a cross in. So you had Guendouzi pushing up on the left a lot of the time. You had Torreira playing on the right, but Torreira sort of like, I couldn't work out where he was meant to be playing, because a lot of the time he was up there in almost like the number 10 position. So he was, if you look at his heat map, he was sort of like on the right hand side, and he was often trying to get into the box to sort of like, so we could overload the box for when we got crosses in. Now, whatever you think about Torreira's performance, he's a defensive midfielder, a DM. So why would you ask Torreira to play so progressively forward when his strengths are at the back? So I couldn't work that out. So what it meant was, whenever an attack broke down, Torreira was out of position. Guendouzi was often up the pitch. And so what did we have in transition? We literally had them running at our back 4, or what was left of it, sort of like, so frequently you had like the 2 centre halves, Socrates and Luiz, with Xhaka in front and maybe Maitland-Niles trying to get back. And they were just sort of like causing havoc because we were so unstructured in front of our defence. We criticised our defenders, but, a year on, Emery still hasn't got us defensively right, I think, in front of that back 4. I don't know what you think, Lee.
Yeah, I totally agree. My problem was that he played the 3 midfield players in there, and at times there was no one in there.
Yeah, big gap.
Song picked up the ball in midfield. Ericsson picked up the ball in midfield, and there was 10, 15 yards before anybody got near him. And what was more worrying was that when we bombed forward, when we lost the ball, there was massive gaps. There was no one. And, listen, Sarri last year got absolute pelters because he kept playing Conte on the right side of the midfield when his best position was holding. And Emery is doing this week in, week out, continuously with Torreira. Either he doesn't play him or he's playing him as a wide player. Now, there were times yesterday, Graham, and I watched Torreira's performance yesterday. I have to say, I thought he was awful yesterday. I don't know if he was unfit or whatever. But there was times he was bombing forward and he didn't have the energy in the legs to get back. He was struggling to get back. So my argument would be there, what the hell are you going forward for in the first place? And the manager was allowing this to happen. And, yeah, it's great to see them the organisation from set pieces and that, but isn't anybody going to come out and say, well, holding someone stay in there? Now, the structure of the game got better as soon as Ceballos came on. It seemed to me that Guendouzi and then Xhaka knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what they was doing.
We had more control in the middle of the park when he came on.
We got the ball up.
We could build combinations because he plays 8. He can play deep. He can play 10.
If you look at Ceballos, if I just look at Ceballos, if you go back and look at the game, I look at yesterday. When the ball goes into Guendouzi, his back is against play, so he 1-2 touches, plays it back. Same with Xhaka, 2 or 3 touches. When you watch Ceballos, he's on the half term. So as soon as he picks the ball up, he's going at their players, and he's got more options. And we controlled the football, which I felt we didn't do with those 3 players. Now, if you're gonna play those 3 midfield players, and this is the question that I've keep telling to all the people that are sticking up for Emery, if you're playing those 3 midfield players, why is Torreira bombing on when that's not his position, leaving his station because he left it on more than one occasion yesterday, and letting Tottenham expose it, right, and doing nothing about it. Now but why you might as well have played Ceballos, you might as well have played Willock in that role. And I'm sorry, he got the tactics completely wrong in what he done. And for the press and not bringing it up about him, I watched Torreira play when he first come into the club. I thought finally we found someone that the DM that plays that role. And like Coquelin when he was here, he started off that, and then after 6 months later, I see Coquelin in our box in the 6-yard box, and now I'm seeing Torreira in the 6-yard box and at the edge of our box when I want to see someone with a little bit more guile and quality in that position. And the reason that he's there is so that he can shore up that defence. The defence is not being shorn up. The midfield is not helping it out, in my opinion, because that's why we're still conceding goals. And now we're a year and a month into this man's tenure, and we're still not sorting it out. Now, I can say this, boys, and I know that Harry's taken a lot of stick for Emery and things like that, but the tide is turning. There's a lot of discontent about Emery, and I'm telling you this now, lads, and I don't give a what anybody says. If Arsenal, God forbid, go to Watford and lose, he's going to be coming under more and more pressure. He's really got to sort it out. Ian Wright said on Match of the Day yesterday, he does not know his best midfield. And I think that's got to be something that he's got to say. Harry, thoughts on that?
I think with the midfield thing, I was sitting long and hard thinking about this last night. When I got back from the game, I was sitting there and I was trying to work out what I would think would be the best midfield. And I know I'm not the manager of Arsenal or anything like that, but, I was trying to work out what I would have done, because I agree with you that the midfield 3 that Unai Emery went with totally didn't work. And it's not the first time that he's got that balance in the middle of the park wrong. So I sat and thought about it, and I come to the conclusion that the problem we've got is that you've got all the components that you need to have a successful midfield are there. But the problem is where Manchester City, for example, have it in 2 or 3 players, and that makes your selection easy, or Liverpool have it in those players, it makes it easy. We've got it across a wide variety of players, and that makes it really, really difficult. So as an example, you got Lucas Torreira, who can press people, harry people, he's aggressive. You've got Guendouzi, who works hard, who maybe at times, I know he played that brilliant pass yesterday, but maybe at times doesn't use the ball as well as he could. You've got Ceballos, who's a flair player. You've got Ozil, who's got incredible vision. Xhaka can play a pass across the pitch, but cannot, for whatever reason, defend. And it's like you've got to mix and match so much to find the right balance. And it's because none of them are complete players. They're just incomplete. And finding that balance, and I criticize Unai Emery all the time, but finding that balance is really, really difficult. But then you've got to look back at, well, he's brought in players. He's brought in 11 players, if I'm not mistaken, since he's come to the Arsenal. And we're still having problems picking our best team. So you've got to question him. You cannot go into games against top quality opposition like Spurs, because no matter how much we don't want to say it, they are top quality opposition. They will be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. They are our direct competitors. You cannot give those types of teams 2-goal leads and rely on Aubameyang and Lacazette to bail you out every single time. That is why we got so close to the top 4 last season, because the other teams around us had disastrous runs, and because Aubameyang and Lacazette kept on bailing us out. You've got Lacazette, you've got Aubameyang, great, but you need to get the rest of the team right. And Unai Emery is not getting it right. Yes, there was fight in the second half. Yes, there was passion, but the fundamental errors need to go away. And you could talk about individual errors, and there are individual errors, but a lot of our problems are tactical as well. And people will sit there and say, you know, it was Granit Xhaka's fault yesterday. We were 2-0 down. Well, in actual fact, Granit Xhaka made a stupid challenge and it's indefensible, but we were getting torn to pieces in that right back position from the first minute. And if Emery wants to stand on the touchline, pointing and waving and doing whatever he does, why is he not seeing that? Why is he not sorting that out? Why is he not addressing that? We can all see it in the stands, but he doesn't want to see it. And I don't get it. It is so frustrating. And over the course of the season, we will be found out again defensively.
I'll ask you a question, Graham. Do you think that, and I think this is something that I was asked today as well, so I'm going to ask you. Do you think Emery doesn't pick probably his best midfield because it would, like, say for instance, it's easy for him to leave Willock out because he's young. You know what I mean? Is it come to the time now where he's got to make some big decisions and leave out somebody like Granit Xhaka, somebody like that? Because I felt that, you know, it's easy for him to leave out Willock. And I felt very harsh on Willock. Willock's been our best midfield player in the 3 games. I understand why he left him out for that game, but there's big decisions to make in that midfield now. And has Emery got before we keep going into bashing about Emery, let's get this something straight. To get to 2-0, to be 2-0 down and get it back, don't matter who's it against, it's still an achievement. It showed a little bit of everything. And at the end of the day, we got something out of it. So he has to take credit for that. But my point being, when it comes to picking a team, somebody said today, you know, he was making decisions at half time. The reason he was making decisions and taking players at half time because he got his starting lineup wrong on many occasions last season, but rectified it at half time. He's still getting those decisions wrong now, and he's not even rectifying them at half time now. I expected to see Ceballos coming out at half time, but he didn't. So what is the problem with Emery? Is he not going to be ruthless enough to because I think it's time now. Socrates, in my opinion, you know, and Xhaka, it's big decisions.
Yeah, and answer to your point, I think the very good points you make. I think it is easy to drop Willock because he's the youngest player, and then sometimes it's easier to go with experience, even if that experience. A great quote from Gary Neville today about Granit Xhaka. He's somebody with experience. He uses none of his experience. I forget the actual quote now, but he made that comparison. So it is easy to drop Willock. Has he got I think when I looked at it yesterday, I honestly believe the reason he went with that midfield structure of 3 defensively minded midfielders is I think that he's always trying, in his mind, he doesn't trust us defensively. He's obviously, we have to mention, first of all, that Bellerin and Tierney are not ready to come back yet. And when they come back, that'll be a massive difference to his team, right? So he's without those. He's got Holding to come back, right? And I think Holding has to, if he's at the level he was before he got injured, I think he should walk straight back in next to one of Socrates or Luiz. That's what I think.
Graham, sorry to interrupt you. Do you think that Hector Bellerin, when he comes back, is going to make us watertight? Because last season, at the beginning of the season, we were all talking about how good he was going forward, but how suspect he was defensively. So just because we're talking about Bellerin in such a great light because we've missed him because he's been out, but is he going to make us defensively solid? Because I don't think he is.
Well, I think first of all, I mean, he is a right back, whereas Maitland-Niles is not. I think you have to say that first of all. I think that I agree with you on certain things. He doesn't, for me, when I watch Bellerin, he doesn't stop that. Remember we had that chat with Nigel Winterburn, didn't we, when we were up in London last year? And I asked him about Bellerin, and he said he's a great player going forward, getting crosses in, but he can't defend because he doesn't stop the crosses coming in. And so, yes, I think that's a valid point, a valid criticism, but I think it'd be better than what we got at the moment. And I think sometimes you have to see what signal it sends to the team. If the team know that they've got better in a right back at right back and Tierney a left back at left back, an actual left back, I think that mentally players feel as though they're stronger because of that. When they've sort of like they see possibly, no disrespect to Maitland-Niles because he is a good footballer, but he's playing out of position. I think that sometimes the signals players realise the signals it sends to them in their head that we've got two fullbacks there. Kolasinac, who bombs on but can't defend. Maitland-Niles is a midfielder, bombs on, can't defend also. That's what it signals it sends. But if they know they've got their number one right back and their number one left back, that does give them more confidence. That's what I say. But I think that I think Emery set that team up because he's got no confidence in our defending, doesn't trust the defending. So that's why he went with the 3. That's what I believe yesterday. And he's always trying to fix holes in that team. I think the problem he's got is that, and Harry makes some great points about all those midfielders, and I saw his tweets today, and I agree with everything Harry said, and I agree with everything you said, Lee. I think the way I would set that midfield up is he has to make a choice, right? Now, the only DM we've got is Torreira. He has to play as DM. He has to be the one sitting in front of the back 4 where he sat for Sampdoria. Then he's got like 2 ball progressors. The 2 ball progressors, I would say, are Granit Xhaka and Matteo Guendouzi. Now, one of them next to Torreira. Now, at the moment, I can't see any argument for having Granit Xhaka in the team. So you can sit with him in the corporate boxes, Lee. You can sort of like wax lyrical about his passing, Harry. But to me, I don't think he deserves a place in the team at the moment because no outfield player in the Premier League has made more errors than Granit Xhaka has in the last year. I think it's
so.
6
This
errors.
is my point. This is my point, Harry. Sorry, Graham. I looked at Granit Xhaka yesterday. You can criticise him and whatever, and I've tried to be objective with my criticism and everything like that. Now, I believe that when I was going to the game, I said all I want is Torreira playing in that holding midfield, just Ceballos up front, and it's out of Guendouzi, Xhaka, and Willock that plays that other role.
Yeah. So for me, then, just finishing off the point I was making, DM will be Torreira, ball progressor, someone who can pass, who will be Guendouzi or Xhaka. Now, the reason why I go with Guendouzi at the moment because he's playing better than Xhaka, doesn't make so many mistakes as Xhaka. He's more mobile than Xhaka, and he deserves his place in the team. And he can build.
Yeah, but you're talking about a ball progressor.
I just want to come on this point.
Let me just finish. Let me just finish, and you come in. And then I think he has to make a choice of the third midfielder, and it's what it boils down to: either Ceballos, Willock, or Ozil. Right, so that gives you more of a balance in your midfield. Defensive midfielder, ball progressor, and somebody who can link the play, and somebody who can come back and defend. I know Ozil can't do it probably as well as the other 2. I think at the moment, when Willock and Ceballos are streets ahead of Meza in the fact that they are their energy getting up and down the pitch, and also I think we're solving problems in the midfield the way we pass around the press with those combination build-up play in midfield with those players. So I would set it up like that: 1 DM, 1 ball progressor. I would nothing against if you wanted to tweak it around occasionally and leave Guendouzi a rest and play Willock and Ceballos. I don't think that's bad either. But I just think at the moment there's no argument for Granit Xhaka being in the team. Ozil to me can offer us something, but at the moment he's not quite ready. But it's all about balance in the midfield. And I think the second half proved it because the moment we got Ceballos on, I think there was more neat triangles, build-up play, and connection with the front 3. That's what I felt.
Great points. Great points. My point being, I'm going to stick up for Xhaka slightly on this because I felt that once the midfield balance, no, nothing to do with that. Once the balance was sorted
you were
out,
actually, Lee, you were more mobile sitting next to him than he was.
I was. I'll tell you like, you know what I mean? Once Ceballos come on, Xhaka grew into the game, especially with his passes.
He was better second half.
Right, because he was suited to that role. Now, when you played that 3 in there, right, this is my argument with the manager. I think that he was. I've got to play Granit Xhaka because, you know, instead of saying, do you know what, I'm going to leave you out and get someone in there with more legs, because I felt that he was getting exposed because he couldn't get across to side quick enough. You know, if you'd have had someone like Willock in there or Torreira or something, he would have done it. And that was his problem. Now, my problem being now, right?
That was his problem, but there's no excuse for a scissor.
Whose fault's that?
There's no excuse for a scissor kick tackle in the penalty box.
No, there's not.
We're going to that in a second. That's going to come up in a second, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about whose fault is that playing him in that position, and he's not being able to get across here, do his job. Whose fault's that? Is that
the manager?
To add to what Lee's saying as well, it was only last week that everybody was talking about how bad Ceballos played up at Anfield because he was put in a narrow midfield and asked to do a job that wasn't what he's supposed to be doing.
And that's my point. I think he's been asked to do things that he's not been done.
Yeah.
I felt Xhaka, up until Ceballos come on, was him and Torreira were poor. But in saying that, he redeemed himself a little bit. I'm not saying that he's redeemed himself enough to get into the side against Watford, because I don't think that he has. And this is my next point. We're going to go on about Granit Xhaka now, and we're going to go on about the penalty. He is continually giving away penalty. His penalty at Brighton, stupidity as it was, cost us Champions League football. Listen, we can all agree with that, And then we're 1-0 down in the North London derby, and he does what he does. Now I'll be honest. A lot of people have said if David Luiz done that against Tottenham, which he did against Liverpool, he would be absolutely skinned alive. Xhaka goes and does it against Spurs, and he opens himself up to all the criticism in the world for people to get on his back when he does things like that. And I'm not his greatest fan. There's a lot of people against him. Why on earth make that stupid tackle? But he continues to keep doing it. He continues to keep doing it. The reason he keeps continuing to do it, in my opinion, is because he's allowed to, because the manager keeps playing him. So, first of all, Harry, why is he continually, as a professional footballer, an experienced player now, continually doing these stupid things?
It's ill discipline and it's poor, and there's absolutely no excuse for it. And when I sit here and I say that I think Granit Xhaka should be in the team, it's not that I'm denying that he does these stupid things or that he has these brain fart moments that lead to, errors and cost us points. I get as frustrated as anybody else when he does those things. But it all comes back to the fact that, Graham was talking earlier about ball progressors, but a ball progressor has to be able to pick out a pass. And Guendouzi played a lovely pass for Aubameyang yesterday. But if you look at the pass maps and you look at the statistics, and Graham, you probably would have seen this because I know you like your stats and stuff. Matteo Guendouzi doesn't play those progressive passes. That's why Granit Xhaka is in the team, because Granit Xhaka can get the ball, look up, see Pepe on the flank, see Aubameyang on the flank, and with one ball he can find them. That's what he brings. But we don't,
Harry. We don't need to play that way, Harry. We don't need. We can sort of like build up with little triangles from the back.
You can't though. You can't if you've got.
You need your place. You need your midfielders closer together, Harry. Your midfielders closer together to sort of nice little triangle passes.
They're too close together. That's why we've got such that.
They weren't close together yesterday, were they? They weren't close together yesterday. Guendouzi was out wide left,
but that's because right. That's because Emery keeps giving teams the freedom of the flanks. And then what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to stay tucked in and let the fullback bring the ball all the way out the pitch without going out there? Of course you're going to go out there. The point is the tactics are wrong. Xhaka is an absolute moron when it comes to things like that. He loses his head. He makes stupid challenges and there's no excuse for it.
Also, Harry, they're giving away about 3 or 4
absolutely.
free kicks, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. But when there are Arsenal fans that say Xhaka needs to be in the team, it's not because they don't see those things. We all see those mistakes. We all get as pissed off as everybody else about them. The point is that we don't have, like, Torreira is not good enough in possession of the ball. He will not pick out a key pass. Guendouzi doesn't do it often enough. Yes, he done it yesterday, but he doesn't do it often enough. There is not the right balance in the whole midfield. And Xhaka's mistakes is a completely different thing. And I do think that Xhaka, should be dropped because of what he done. I absolutely agree with that. But I also think the way we set up yesterday and what Lee said about how Xhaka improved when the midfield was right kind of proved why Emery does put him in the team. Emery can't be held accountable for that moment of madness, but Emery sees what he brings, and that is the ability to pick out a pass. And Xhaka is a pain in the arse, but until Emery goes and signs someone else that can do that role, then he has to play. And mark my words, no matter what we sit here and say, Granit Xhaka will play, because in Unai Emery's eyes, in Arsene Wenger's eyes before him, in the Swiss international manager's eyes, that is what he gives you.
Totally agree, Harry. Harry, he will play against Watford. But so this is my point. If he's going to play against Watford, play him in the proper position that he can play. Now, I'm not saying that.
Well, the only way to do that then is to play him further forward, isn't it?
Well,
Sort of
a two, and then like it was yesterday, Graham. We can't deny that he played better. I'm not saying he was fantastic, but he gives us something. I agree with Harry. What he gives us something that nobody else does. And I can tell you this now, Torreira, I bet he's glad that Granit Xhaka's playing yesterday, because I think it's taken the heat off of his performance yesterday tenfold. I thought he was just as bad as well. But Xhaka will get the problems. The reason he'll get the problems is because he gives away silly free kicks and penalties, and he continues to do it. In my opinion, the manager now has got to come in and say enough's enough. But I don't think that he will. And you have to say this, Graham. As much as I'm with you, I don't think that Granit Xhaka should be in the side. But the manager is giving the captaincy. So what does that tell you?
Well, is he giving them a captaincy?
Well, he has in the last, every time he's played, he's been captain.
He's not the official captain, is he? But because if you look at the program,
that sums up the manager again, then, doesn't it? I've got to say, he's got five captains. Let's just go back to the manager. Decisions on the manager. Yeah. He hasn't chose a captain. Right? He brings on Mkhitaryan yesterday when he knows he's going to Rome, and the next day and you've got Nelson sitting there, like, you know what I mean? Or more importantly, bring in Gabriel Martinelli and leave him out. There's so many things that he's doing, and he can't pick a captain. You know what I mean? Well, come on. You know what I mean? Just coming
back to the Xhaka argument, I just think that he doesn't deal with stress very well in the penalty box, or when he doesn't like certain. He reminds me of Mustafi. They can't deal with stressful situations, so they want to get out of there as quickly as they can. They panic, basically. Yeah,
he panics. But you've also got to look at the fact that we don't want Granit Xhaka come in and plug in the holes left by our right back.
Exactly, and that's the
point I was going to. Right, that's the
point I was going to make. I agree with you, Harry. I agree with you. And I've just got a tweet here from a guy called Peter Minley. PM was at that Gooner, and he says a really good thing here yesterday, and I agree with him 100%. He says Unai's use of Torreira in attack is so irritating. It makes no sense. Just rotate the right-sided position so Lucas Torreira is protecting transitions in the narrow right back spot. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is wide and Pepe is a threat through the middle. It's this kind of setup which leaves us exposed in transition. And he's right, because exposed in transition leaves Granit Xhaka having to deal with situations that he just can't deal with. So we need to get him. We need to get him out there, don't we? Yeah, so it's a really good tweet there from Peter.
I also think that when Hector Bellerin comes back, we know when people turn around and say, and I'm one of them, Hector Bellerin is not going to be the greatest defender, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't. But what it will do is it will then release Maitland-Niles maybe to play in that front role further forward when we've got to be a more defensive structured side, instead of Torreira.
Do you not agree that when you look back over the last few years, think about like when Santi Cazorla was playing in a deeper position. Think about when Arteta was playing there, when Coquelin was playing there, right? Think about all those players and Granit Xhaka. They're all very, very different footballers. But what's the common factor here? The common factor is that in transition, all four of them were exposed. That tells you that the team as a whole, when they lose the ball, are all over the shop. It tells you that at times yesterday, Torreira and Guendouzi were going a little bit like headless chickens, having to go out wide because of the system. And then it was allowing Ali and Son the space to carry the ball forward. But whoever plays at the foot of Arsenal's defensive midfield, will always be exposed because we just don't defend properly as a team. And Xhaka, there's no excuse for his stupid mistake. But in terms of him being exposed in one-on-one situations and being isolated by attacking sides, he's not the first and he won't be the last in this Arsenal team to have that problem.
And I think the thing you've got to take into account now, if he's going to play the front three, Pepe, Aubameyang and Lacazette, I don't think you're going to see much tracking back from Aubameyang or Pepe. So he's got to get that midfield structure right in front of that back four, and I think that that's why I think he went with a diamond at Anfield. Because he knew Pepe, obviously as an attacking threat, but he knew that they wouldn't be tracking back. So I think that he's got to get this midfield sorted out. But he's got to get the players in the right positions. I'll tell you what's an interesting stat, and Harry might like this one. Wenger's last year, right, as manager, Wenger always knew what his best teams were and played to his attacking strengths. We had 422 shots against us in his last year, right? Now, Emery has come in, a defensive-minded coach, and when he came in, I can remember his press conference, he said he wanted to. There's been a decline in the way Arsenal attack and defend, which I'm going to try and arrest, and I'm going to make us more competitive against the top six. Now, last year, I checked this out last night. Wenger's last year, which was his worst of his tenure, 422 shots at us in Premier League games. Emery's first season, 493 shots at us, 71 more shots at us, which is nearly 2 more shots a game. So he hasn't sorted out the weakness that Wenger left us with. And I think that whether it's because these players, some of them are old Wenger players, I don't think you can use that argument much more because 17 players have now gone. But whether these players just don't understand defensive responsibilities, can't press or can't carry out his strategy, his tactics, we just can't seem to defend as a team off the ball, can we? I mean, I love watching us go forward, but whenever we lose the ball, I'm stressed in that stadium watching us defend. I think the first thing he has to do is get Torreira sitting as a DM and tell him to sit. The next thing he needs to do is have a structured midfield that when we lose possession, they're back, sort of like plug in the central, so we're narrow, not letting them through the middle, because that's what's missing.
I honestly think, Graham, when it comes away from home, he won't play the three up front.
You think so?
No, I think he'll forsake.
He won't play him at Watford.
I don't think he will. I think that he'll leave one out. I think that he's very, very negative, and I think you're dead right what you're saying. That he does not trust that defence. So I think that he's looking to, and I think even yesterday proved that point. Maybe when he gets his defenders in that he wants, we might see a little bit different. But
I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you what.
Imagine not trusting your defence when you've brought in David Luiz, Socrates. All right, Tierney hasn't played yet. You bought Lichtsteiner last season. You bought a new goalkeeper. You bought Guendouzi, and he's brought all these players in, yet he still doesn't trust them. He had £72 million to go and spend on a single player, and he felt that it was more important to go out and get Pepe than it was to go and get a top-class centre-half, a world-class centre-half. Now, with £72 million, Arsenal could have got a top-class centre-half. But the fact is,
I don't think there's anyone out there, Harry, to be honest. Who could we have got?
For 72 million, I'm sure.
Well, we could have got Delit.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, would we have we gone to, say, Napoli and said, we want Koulibaly, is 70, 80 million, and they would have said, we want the 70, 80 million up front now. We got that deal over the line.
I like to think that maybe that Arsenal were prepared to spend the money on a centre-half, but they probably couldn't get him. So they thought, well, we can't get him this season, so we'll spend the money somewhere else. And then I'd like to think that. That's
and then next season and then in January they're gonna tell us we can't bring a centre half now because we spent X amount.
Well, Harry, I'm telling you that now. Sorry, no excuses. They're getting played. They've got El Neni off the wage bill. They've got Mkhitaryan off the wage bill. They sold Iwobi right on the last effort. If they don't buy anybody in January, you know what I mean? Like, those got at the end of it, the Cronkies have got a lot to answer for again because they've not invested. Simple as that, you know what I mean? So
just coming back to the Granit Xhaka situation, one thing we haven't discussed. You say Harry thinks that he wants Granit Xhaka in the team because he can ping the passes, but we could play David Luiz there. We could sort of like play Socrates. We could play Socrates and Holding as the centre. I know not necessarily go to a back five, but play Luiz as.
Could have played Callum Chambers in there yesterday. You know what I mean? Like,
he's got options, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got options.
He could play Luiz there. Luiz can ping a ball left and right. Can play through the lines. I like
David Luiz yesterday. I thought he'd done a good job on Harry Kane. You know what I mean? Harry Kane only got a kick. You know, he got a penalty, but other than that, He had a great shot with which at the post, but that's the quietest I've seen Harry Kane for a very, very long time.
Harry Kane didn't get the penalty, Lee. He fell over again, but he didn't get the penalty. I mean, he put away a penalty.
He scored the penalty. But listen, you can go on that. I want to go on to something a little bit more positive now, because I think we've gone on to we've hammered a little bit of Emery and all that, and that is a player that today has got his first call up for the French national team, fully deserved, and that was Guendouzi. Now, I'm going to be honest, guys. When I picked my team for the North London derby, I left him out. I felt that he, was going to need a bit of a break, and I went with a little bit more experience in that midfield. But I was proved wrong. Emery proved right on this one, because I think that he's bought this boy for £8 million, 20 years of age, and I thought yesterday, when it really mattered, and it matters to us fans, let's get it right in the North London derby, this boy stepped up to the plate, and I thought was absolutely magnificent. Not just going forward, not just for his pass. There was times he was winning the ball back in crucial areas, coming back, nicking the ball. I just thought he was absolutely outstanding on the day. He's taken a lot of criticism from certain sections of the fans. Again, like Granit Xhaka, there's some that love him and some that don't. I thought he was sensational yesterday, deservedly man of the match, unbelievably. Pepe got it in the sun today. Can you believe it? I'm glad I don't buy that paper. But anyway, I thought Guendouzi was absolutely superb in there yesterday. Thoughts on Matteo? Harry, go on. I'll let you have this one, Harry. Go on, son. Come on, that's a bit of positivity.
I was really, really impressed by his second half performance in particular. I think the first half he did okay. I think he put a lot of work in, of course. But as we've already spoken about, I felt like the system wasn't helpful to any of those three in there. But I thought in the second half, what Guendouzi done really well was that he kept plugging away in terms of his work rate. He kept on, trying to make things happen. The passion, the heart, you can see, Guendouzi's really, really streetwise for a young.
Harry, your mic's gone off.
Am I back now?
That's it.
Sorry about that. I like the way that he's really streetwise for his age. And when teams put down the ball to take a quick free kick, Guendouzi's always the first one to go and stand on the ball. And I love that. I love the fact that he's always so aware and he's so into the game. And sometimes when young players make mistakes, they go hiding in a game. And I think that's something that you can say about Maitland-Niles at times. I think that sometimes when he makes a mistake, he gets a bit rattled. And then for the next 15, 20 minutes, he's not at the same level. But it doesn't seem to faze Guendouzi. And that's what I love about him. I do think, as I've already said on the show, that at times he doesn't use the ball as well as he should. He picked out that incredible pass for Aubameyang, because if someone showed me that shot again, where, Guendouzi has the ball, I can't see that pass to Aubameyang. So for him to spot that, and them to be on the same wavelength, I thought was sensational. He deserves his call up. I hope he does well. Really pleased to see him developing. And I've not always been his biggest fan. At times I felt he was overplayed. But yesterday he showed that what he maybe lacks at times in terms of ability and maybe vision, he makes up for it with heart and stamina and effort. And Unai Emery is right to want to make Guendouzi a part of his plans and to keep Guendouzi in and around the squad. There's still maybe an argument that at times he's not the right player to pick, but I think you saw why players and the players around him and the manager really like this kid and are really excited about the prospect. So great performance, my man of the match without question.
Graham, just like he reminded me, not just because of his hair yesterday, a little bit like Ray Parlour, that sort of player. Yeah. Someone that you need in a team that's going to run through walls for you, work really hard, maybe not as gifted as some of the other players. So what? You need every little mixture in a side, and I was impressed with the work rate, as Harry says. What's your actual thoughts on him, and how far do you think he can go?
Well, it's amazing to think he is as young as he is, and he's in a short matter of time become almost like an important cog of the wheel, isn't he? I think the thing I liked about him yesterday was he gets the passion of the North London derby, doesn't he? He gets the passion of it, and he he took the ball at the Tottenham defence. He had most touches, I think, in that second half. He never gave Spurs any room to breathe. He was at them, out of possession, and he was all over the pitch. He did that role in the first half, so he was sort of like covering for Kolasinac out wide. He was combining with Aubameyang and Kolasinac in wide areas, he overloads. He's just his energy, his enthusiasm, what he brings to the team. And he just, as you said, he as Harry said and you've said, he wants the ball all the time. He doesn't get worried by a mistake. And I think we got a really good player on our hands here. And, and Emery wanted him. And we questioned it when he came. We didn't think he was going to play so many minutes so quickly. But he's really, this season, he's developing into a very fine young player. And I was so impressed. He was clearly the man of the match yesterday. And I think a player who's got maturity beyond his years.
Yeah, and also, like, when you look at it with Emery, and this is another, we've had a little criticism at Emery, but he's obviously seen something in this boy from being involved in France somewhere along the line to get him over here for 8 million, and to Emery's credit here, he's played him, and I didn't think that he'd probably play in the first couple of games, but he has done, and all of a sudden he's starting to really make his mark. I
think he's getting better. He's getting better as he gets more experience of the Premier League. He's getting more experience.
It's a very mature performance from him yesterday. What I liked about him as well, if he does make a foul, he doesn't. He from being the aggressor, he turns into the I'll help you up, sorry sir, sort of thing. He seems to have a very good little relationship with the referees. So you feel like like the referee give him the benefit of that if he does do a little bit of a foul or whatever. I just think he's got a fantastic attitude for his age, and
great perm as well. Great perm.
Well, I don't like people with too much hair, if I'll be honest, Harry. Like, this is one of the things I don't like about him. But other than that, I think that he was super. Great that he's in the French team as well, because he probably won't play, so it'd be nicely rested for Watford. So that's a good thing to have. Right, we've got an international break now, and we now come back, and we've got a little bit of a difficult September, I think. I don't know how you guys think about this. We'll wrap it up in a second. Just going to go on to the next few games. Watford, away from home, never easy. And then we've got the Europa League, if I'm right in saying that. Frankfurt away, if I'm quite correct on that. And then we've got Aston Villa.
Lee, before you go into that, do you want to look at if there's any questions in the chat? I mean, I've got
we can do that. Go on, fire away.
I've got a couple of questions here. I'll see if there's anything. The trouble is I can't keep up with it, but I've got a guy.
I ain't got that coming through. Why haven't I got that coming through, Harry?
I don't know.
So what we'll do, there's not really many questions. There's loads of comments, but what we'll do is while Graham reads that one, and we talk about those next couple of fixtures, Lee, we'll give people a chance to put their questions in.
Yeah, okay.
And then
we'll finish off with that then. So we've got Watford coming up, and then we've got Manchester United at the end of the month. I think there's a Monday night football game. Some tough games in there. So what's our thoughts on those? I think that Watford's going to be tricky in it, bottom of the league, expected to win, but it's a physical game for. I'm not looking forward to that one, guys. If I'll be honest, I think it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, it's never an easy game, is it? It's not the ideal fixture, but I'll take some confidence from the fact that, like you said, Watford have struggled a little bit this season. They're a funny team, aren't they? It's like a manager goes in there, it does really well, and then things always go stale after. So, but traditionally they do give us problems. I thought they were pretty good at the Emirates last season. So yeah.
I think we've got a set of fixtures where we need to really capitalise on these fixtures. With Chelsea and Man United are in disarray at the moment. Chelsea, admittedly, not in disarray. Chelsea, Lampard. To be fair to Lampard, he's got a young team and he's rebuilding. So, but they've got Loftus-Cheek and Hudson-Odoi not fit. Defensively, they're struggling. So they're letting in goals for fun. I mean, they're playing some good football as well, but they're not the Chelsea of the past. And Solskjaer's got major problems at Man United. So I think this is a time, like we talked about last season, where Emery let it slip with his defensiveness at the end of last season, where we were too defensive against Palace. We need to take advantage. We should have taken advantages last year. So we've got the set of fixtures to do it, and I think we need to do so. I'll just move on to the question, really.
Yeah, fire away on the questions.
This just two here, and one to Harry, one to Lee. This is from a regular viewer of Same Old Arsenal. He always watches us on Catch Up, and he put two questions to me tonight. So his question, first of all, to the judge. You will all agree that we missed creativity in midfield 3 yesterday. And of course, we have talked about that.
Yeah.
But do you see any genuine, substantial or superior creativity in a Liverpool midfield trio of Fabinho, Henderson and Wijnaldum? So he wants a comparison there. So if we're worried about lack of creativity, Liverpool, let's compare Arsenal to Liverpool at the moment. Liverpool play those front three. Lacazette is Firmino is their Lacazette, or vice versa, and then you've got like Salah, he comes deep, and you've got Salah and Mane spinning in behind in the wide areas, and so our midfield we moaned about the lack of creativity, but just look at that Liverpool midfield. Fabinho sits deep, Henderson's just a worker, and Wijnaldum, I can't say his name. Lee, you struggle with names like me.
Yeah, that's it.
Wijnaldum, yeah. So basically.
They're not
that creative, are they? But it doesn't seem to do Liverpool any harm, does it?
I've got to say that it's a very, very good point. A very, very good point. But I would say that Liverpool are a little bit further down the line than us, and I look at that with like Nicolas Pepe. I think is a long way off being the finished article yet. I think that he gets into some good positions, but he's crossing and he's passing and he's shooting is letting him down at this moment in time. But that I hopefully will come. Liverpool play a completely different way to us, where they really just bomb on with their defenders now, with their two fullbacks. Now, even against Pepe and Aubameyang, they were happy to go 2 against 2. Happy to go there, because at the end of it, they've got those two fantastic. They've got one fantastic defender in. We'll know what he's like. You know what I mean? And whatever you say about him, VVD is the top class player. So they can leave 1-on-1s, two game ones, and he gets out of it. I watched him against Spurs last season, and he'd done it fantastically well. So they can just bomb on a little bit. The three in the midfield just hustle and bustle further up the field and press, and they win the ball for those three to get on the ball in the final third. And the reason they can do that is because they've got top class defender in Van Dijk. That is as simple as that.
They've also got that midfield trio. They give the license to the fullbacks to go forward and commit forward, whilst they will drop back and protect. Whereas our lot don't have a bloody clue about filling in holes and stuff. Whereas the likes of Henderson, Wijnaldum, they would do that willingly.
But in saying that, Harry, in Emery's defence, and this is where I think Emery's got to come. They play week in, week out, game in, game out. They know exactly what they're doing. But
Emery, it's not. But you can't. It's not Emery's defence, because he chooses to change it every week. So
no, and he's got to start. I think that we're a different sort of a side. I do think that we've got different players. I think if you look at Mane as well. He's more of a natural wide player than Aubameyang, if I'll be honest. It's nice to compare, but at this moment we can't really go down that road.
So just quickly then, a one-word answer. Do you see their midfield trio as more superior creativity-wise to the midfield trio we played yesterday? Yes or no?
Yeah,
about the same.
Okay, and then the second question. Then this one's for Harry. This is from the art of Arshavin again at Darkside _AFC. Harry, if we say that Pochettino bottled a 2-0 lead yesterday, which in my opinion he did, do you think that Emery would ever bottle a 2-0 lead against Spurs in any form?
I'm glad you give that one, Harry. I'll tell you
I'll give him the Emery question.
Put it this way. I've seen Emery bottle a 4-0 lead in the Champions League, so I won't put it past him. Right, let's go on.
Any more questions, Harry?
We've got lots coming through. This one's coming from Craig, actually. He says, question for Lee Judges. What moment persuaded you to buy the bad polo and not the pucker polo like Craig's?
I personally thought, I looked at your one and I thought I need to upgrade, you know what I mean? So that's what I've done, Craig. No, I got this for my birthday, so Michelle bought this for me on my birthday, so I thought I'd wear it tonight. And because we bought a few players, I decided to to wear it and accept the present. So there you go, like, you know. And even Michelle said the blue one's better than Craig's white one. So there you go.
Right, another question. Let's go through these because we got loads. If Emery does not get CL, would you take Mourinho, Graham?
Lee can do that one.
No, I'll tell you what. Like, you know what I mean? If and I said this yesterday, if he goes to the Arsenal, I would have to seriously think about not supporting.
Do you know what?
Not supporting Arsenal, not games. I just don't want him at the club. I'm sorry.
No,
under no shape or form.
He's a nicer bloke as a pundit, isn't he? That's the first thing I'd say.
I don't watch him.
I couldn't have him at Arsenal.
No,
just couldn't have him at Arsenal.
No, I'm sorry. And I'll tell you what, he's probably, you know, trying to be all nicey about it and all that. Like, I don't know what you think, Harry. You asked a question there. For me, it's a definite no, and I hope and pray that Emery gets it right if it means him coming to the club. You know what I mean? So Emery, sort that midfield out and that'll be it for me. Like, I just don't want him at the club. Sorry. Can't stand the man. I can't stand his values. I can't stand what he's done in football. And
we can't forget how he's treated Wenger.
And he'd love to come to Arsenal, by the way, Graham. Don't get me wrong. He'd love to come to Arsenal because he's in London and everything like that. So please, no.
Well, what else we got here? Emery in and Xhaka and Harry out. Hussam says Arsenal keep looking at Liverpool to emulate what they did, but are Klopp and Emery even on the same stratosphere? I love Lee. He's always real, and I hope Arsenal make the top four. Emery and Klopp, are they on the same level? Not in my opinion. I don't know what you two think.
No, I think the one thing I'll say on that is that when Klopp went in at Liverpool, you saw immediately what his identity was. You know, that heavy metal pressing. What do you call it, Harry? That Gurgen? Is it Gurgen press?
Gurgen pressing. I think.
Gurgen pressing. So basically, you saw how he his values as a coach and what he wanted to instill in his team. That was there from the start, and the same with Pep Guardiola. But I have to say, I don't think Emery, even now, we understand what the identity is. And we said earlier we don't think he knows his best 11. I don't think he's given the team an identity yet. And I have to say, I don't like the way he continually tinkering. I think that I looked at some stats last night. I think he made something like the last 5 games last season, he changed the formation in games 11 times in 5 matches at 2.3 changes per game. So he doesn't understand. I think he needs to stamp his identity on the team, and that's the difference between him and Klopp. When Klopp went in, you knew what Klopp was all about, and he brought that to Liverpool, and that's the difference, I think.
It's interesting because a lot of people talk about like fans of clubs that Emery's managed in the past have always said that one of their issues with him was that he was too pragmatic and that he paid too much attention to his opponents and didn't really have his own philosophy and kept making changes. And maybe we're just struggling with it because we've gone from someone who wasn't bothered about what his opponent was doing to someone who's the complete opposite. So it's a culture change for us as well. And we're going to have to get used to it, I guess.
From my point of view, I don't want to compare ourselves with Liverpool. We're not Liverpool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We got one. We got one from Carol Russell in there. Harry, I don't know if you can see it. Mrs. Same Old Arsenal.
Let's have a look.
Do you think we'll go? Karen's question. I'll put this to the judge. Do you think we will go for Upamecano in January or maybe next summer? I'll get the name right there.
I'm glad you said that. Upamecano. Just comes off the tongue, like, you know what I mean. So
he's at Leipzig, isn't he? He's at Leipzig.
I would love to see him come there, but you know, I think that's all going to depend on the Champions League. If they've qualified for the Champions League knockout stages, he's not going to want to come to Arsenal in January. They might be able to sign him in January to play next season. I think that would be a fantastic signing. We need to get in a top class central defender, whether he's 20, 21, 22. I don't know. We've got Saliba to come in as well. I want to see 2 big, powerful central defenders. And I'll go back to the point, you know, you can blame Leno for the goal. It should never have got to Leno in the first place because we had a decent centre-half that wins our headers. We don't have that problem. And that's the problem we've got with our defending as well. We don't win enough percentage of headers from central defenders, and we've got to look to improve that. And if Upamecano is the man to do that, then fantastic. But I honestly think that Arsenal will go in for somebody in in January, depending who it is and if they can get at him. So I think the Napoli central defenders are another one that could. The little rumours going about.
Did you see his own goal at the weekend? My God.
No, so look, all different. Do you know what I'm going to say this now? I think defending in a whole has got worse. It's not great, So it's going to be tough to get a central defender in, but we need one. We need one.
Just a quick question, Lee Farrell, friend of the show. What formation would you play at Watford?
I'm not even going to try and guess.
I'd say, look. Our strengths are our attack. We're very, very, very weak at the back. So let's get on the ball. Let's have more of the ball so that we haven't got to defend so much. And that's my motto then. So it would be Ceballos would be the one up there. So I'll go 4-3-3.
Daniel Shaw, love the podcast, lads. Thanks, Daniel. Where will we finish this season?
Harry?
4th. We're going to finish 4th because Frank Lampard is a disaster and so is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So we're going to finish 4th and Emery's going to get a contract extension and get a free ride.
Do you know what I'm going to say? I still think Spurs are going for a bad patch. I still think that they're vulnerable. But I agree with Harry. I think that...
I think Spurs have got those problems. They've got players in the last year, their contracts.
If Emery sorts his team out and he's going to be... If he becomes a little bit more positive, I do believe we can still get 3rd. But I feel that he's playing with a handbrake at the moment and I think we might just sneak 5th. 4th.
5th.
I think we will get top 4. Exactly what Harry says, because the other two, not because we're great, is that the other two teams are. I honestly think, and I'll say it on the same old Arsenal. I think that before the end of the season, may possibly Mourinho will be manager of Man United. Not Mourinho, Pochettino.
Seriously,
I think it would not surprise me by the end of the season, Pochettino will be the manager.
Got one here from F&A. Lee Judges, do you think when Holding, Tierney and Bellerin comes in, it will massively improve the team and push us to becoming a Champions League club with Holding, Tierney and Bellerin in our defence?
I think we were improved, but I don't think it defensive. Look, listen, we was making mistakes with Holding at the back last season. We was making mistakes with Bellerin at the back. I remember going up to Man United. I know that Holding come off, but we were still making those same mistakes. We've been making them all the time. I had my reservations about them two coming back from serious injuries. I don't think that they should be rushed back in any shape or form. I want to see them playing every game in the Europa League before they're even considered playing in the Premier League. Yeah. If they come back and, Holding plays as well as what he done last season, alongside someone like David Luiz with experience, I think it will improve, but it's not going to improve enough to make us challenge for the title or Champions League football.
One for Harry, Alex McCarthy. Do you think Emery will prioritise Europa League over top 4?
Good question.
I think it depends on the situation. I think that the Europa League is a competition that you can, for the most part, coast through with your youngsters and your sort of second string. And then when you get to the business end of the season, you've got to then make that decision, haven't you? Whether you've got more chance of qualifying for the Champions League via the league route or the Europa League route. Because at the end of the day, that is what his job is to get us back in the Champions League. That's his objective. So it's hard to say. I think it all depends on how the season pans out. And then when you get to the sort of last, I won't even say the last 32 round, the last 16, last 8, then he's got a decision to start making. And it depends on the draws you get as well. You'll have to see further down the line.
South London's finest. I think we talked about this a lot. But he says, what are we missing in our midfield to make it more balanced, and who? Would you bring in any signings in January?
Well, I don't know who, but I would bring in a big, powerful, someone like Decor at Watford. Someone like that would be someone to power it up and be a real strong defensive minded midfield player. Someone that will do that job. Whether that'll be Callum Chambers could probably do it. I don't know, but do it within. But we definitely need someone in there that's going to stay in that midfield, just stick in there and just do the dirty work, boys. Just do the dirty work.
And I think
Cool.
we exhausted a lot of the questions now,
Yeah,
mate.
I think. Well, that's just because we've now gone to one. Look at that, 1 hour 14 minutes. That's unbelievable, like, you know. So we'll wrap it up now, guys. Just want to say thank you, Harry. Thank you, Graham. Listen,
Pleasure.
it's been a heated debate at times, but you know, I don't think there's no one right, no one wrong. It's all about opinions, and I think we all share different opinions at times, but we all know how to conduct ourselves. And I thought that was a great debate. So well done, guys. Hopefully next week we'll have Craig and Dan back. I've just had a message from Dan as we're talking that he's okay, so that's good.
We've got an international break. We've got an international break next week.
We've got international break, so I don't think that we're back next week. We'll have a little break. I'm off on my holidays for a week. So
where are you going?
I'm just saying I'm going to Vegas for a week, like, you know what I mean? So,
just to Vegas.
So, like, you know,
He's going with Granny Xhaka.
Dropping over the pond.
Who are you going with? Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Michelle treated me for my birthday. So you know, so
is it a special one? Special one?
Well, just every birthday special, Graham. You know what I mean? So, like, you know,
not my age, mate. Not at my age.
No. Like, no. When I get over 50, I won't celebrate them. I'll tell you, like, no. So, yeah. So I'm going off for a few days. So, I think we're going to have a break next week, and then we'll be back the following Monday. No, Monday. Yeah, because the game's on a Sunday, isn't it, for Watford? So we're back following talking. Hopefully, 3 points at Watford. So until that, have a lovely week. Enjoy the international break, and we'll see you very, very soon. Come on, you Gunners.
Up the Arsenal.